You won't believe what happened when my HOA tried to fine me for installing security cameras around my home. What started as a simple safety measure turned into a full-blown war against the board, and by the end, the entire HOA was removed. Stay tuned to see how one person stood up to a whole system and won. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another wild HOA story. You're about to witness a real-life property drama that will leave you questioning your neighborhood rules. It all began innocently enough. I installed a few security cameras around my property, mostly to keep an eye on my driveway and backyard. Living in a suburban neighborhood with a history of petty HOA disputes, I knew I had to follow the guidelines. But the guidelines were vague at best. The cameras were small, discreet, and pointed solely at my property. I never imagined they would trigger such a storm. A few weeks after installation, I received a letter from the HOA board. They claimed that my cameras violated aesthetic standards and demanded I remove them immediately, threatening fines that could reach hundreds of dollars. I was stunned. These cameras weren't obtrusive, they weren't offensive, and most importantly, they were for the safety of my family and property. The letter felt like a personal attack rather than a legitimate concern. I began to research HOA regulations, poring over the bylaws and local property laws. That's when I discovered the cracks in the board's authority. Many of the fines they were issuing had no legal backing, and several homeowners had quietly faced similar threats but didn't know how to fight back. Armed with this knowledge, I decided to take a stand. My first step was to document everything. I compiled photographs of my cameras, copies of all correspondence with the board, and records of neighborhood incidents that highlighted why security cameras were necessary. I also started talking to my neighbors, some of whom shared similar frustrations. It quickly became clear that the board had been operating with near total impunity, making arbitrary decisions without consulting the community. As I prepared my defense, the board escalated their actions. They sent another letter, this time adding a hearing and the threat of daily fines. Their tone was aggressive, almost mocking, as if they believed their power was absolute. But I wasn't backing down. I filed a formal complaint with the local housing authority and sought legal counsel. Meanwhile, I organized a neighborhood meeting, not in the HOA's usual bland community hall, but at a local park, where homeowners could openly discuss the issues. The turnout was remarkable. People shared stories of petty fines, harassment, and intimidation from the board. The more I listened, the more I realized that this wasn't just about my cameras, it was about exposing a pattern of misuse of power. The next chapter began with a strategic plan. I couldn't just challenge the board individually. I had to mobilize the community. I created a petition calling for a full review of the HOA's actions and demanded accountability. The petition circulated quickly, gaining signatures from the majority of residents. The board tried to downplay it, claiming only a small fraction supported me. But the truth was undeniable. At the next HOA meeting, I presented my case, not as a confrontation, but as a well-researched, legally grounded argument. I outlined every instance where the board had overstepped its authority and highlighted how their actions violated both HOA rules and state laws. The room was tense. Board members shifted uncomfortably as neighbors voiced their support, many citing their own experiences with arbitrary fines and intimidation. It became clear that the board had underestimated the collective power of the community. Over the following weeks, the pressure mounted. I continued gathering evidence, including testimonials from residents, video documentation of board actions, and records of previous disputes. Simultaneously, I reached out to the media, which began to show interest in covering the story. The board responded with their usual tactics: threats, intimidation, and attempts to discredit me. But each move only strengthened my position. I had built a network of informed and engaged homeowners who were ready to challenge any unfair action. When the HOA attempted to impose the first fine, the community responded immediately, submitting formal objections and demanding a suspension of the fine until a review could take place. The local housing authority opened an investigation into the board's practices, which added another layer of accountability. I realized that this fight was bigger than cameras or fines. It was about ensuring fairness, transparency, and integrity within our community. As the legal and social pressure intensified, the board began to fracture. Factions formed, with some members realizing that their actions had gone too far. Internal emails and leaked documents revealed a pattern of favoritism, personal vendettas, and questionable financial decisions. I made sure the neighborhood was aware of these findings, carefully presenting the information in a way that encouraged collective action without inciting chaos. At the next HOA election, I helped organize a campaign to replace the board members who had consistently abused their power. The community rallied behind the idea of a clean slate. Flyers, online forums, and neighborhood meetings spread awareness, emphasizing transparency, accountability, and respect for residents' rights. On election day, the turnout was historic. Longtime residents who had previously been disengaged showed up in droves. When the results were announced, every board member who had supported the fines and intimidation tactics was removed. It was a victory not just for me, but for every homeowner who had been silenced or bullied. The new board pledged reforms including clear guidelines on security installations, transparent financial reporting, and a commitment to fair treatment of all residents. For the first time in years, the community felt empowered, not controlled. Even after the board was removed, the story didn't end there. Implementing reforms required careful planning and continued engagement. I helped establish a neighborhood oversight committee to ensure that no future board could operate unchecked. We created an anonymous reporting system for any grievances, set clear rules for fines and penalties, and held quarterly meetings open to all residents. The transformation was remarkable. What was once a tense, distrustful neighborhood became cooperative and proactive. Security cameras that had once sparked conflict were now seen as a shared resource, with guidelines ensuring safety without infringing on aesthetics or privacy. Reflecting on the journey, I realized that the key to success was preparation, persistence, and community mobilization. The board had underestimated the power of an informed and organized community, and that mistake led to their downfall. It was a lesson in standing up for what's right, even when facing an entrenched system of authority. The cameras had been the spark, but the movement was fueled by a collective desire for justice, fairness, and respect within our own neighborhood. This entire ordeal taught me more than I ever expected about the dynamics of power, community, and civic engagement. The aftermath was a mix of relief, pride, and vigilance. While the new board worked tirelessly to rebuild trust, I continued to document and share our story, hoping that other neighborhoods facing similar challenges could learn from our experience. Each success reinforced the idea that one person, when informed and persistent, could inspire widespread change. The experience also revealed the importance of resilience and strategic thinking. Confronting a board entrenched in authority required patience, evidence, and the ability to rally allies without creating unnecessary conflict. By focusing on facts and maintaining a clear narrative, I was able to turn what could have been a personal dispute into a community-wide movement. In the end, the cameras were more than just a security measure. They symbolized accountability, transparency, and the power of collective action. And while the battle was challenging, the outcome proved that even in the face of intimidation and arbitrary authority, justice could prevail. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more unbelievable HOA dramas, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and leave a comment about the craziest HOA story you've ever witnessed. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story where ordinary homeowners take on extraordinary challenges and win.